There are chapters, again, all across the country. We focus on the U.S. for right now. And there's some in cold weather climates, right? Cleveland, Ohio, for example. And then in warmer places like where you are. Oh my gosh, I was in Scottsdale in October and I've never been so hot in my entire life. It was like 115 degrees.
Sorry, we had a little bit of a hot spell this summer.
Sure
It didn't never stop.
Depending on the weather, a chapter might do programs indoors if they're lucky enough to have an indoor facility.
Well, hello and welcome back to your virtual tea time. My name is Tori and I am your host. And today we are joined with Jennifer Weiler, Senior Vice President of the First Tee. I'm so excited to share this episode with you because after all this time I've been in the golf industry, the golf circles, I'm embarrassed to say that I didn't really know what the First Tee was. I had an idea, but after talking to Jennifer and really seeing what the program is all about, I was wrong. I was definitely off. And while in this interview, we were talking about Jennifer's journey from when the First Tee practically started to now her being the Senior Vice President, we also take an in-depth look at what the program is all about. And just like me, if you are listening right now and you aren't really familiar with the First Tee program, get ready to be thoroughly impressed. But before we dive into the interview today, I want to go over a couple events that we have spots open for that I would love for you to come with us. First off, TPC Danzante Bay. We are hosting the Danzante Bay Invitational in Mexico. It is the most stunning location and it's right next to a resort that's all inclusive. It makes it an easy, low stress vacation with tons of organized golf. The perfect scenario really to get together a group of your friends, whether it's just you and your partner or the four of you, or maybe a group of 6, 8, 10, and go on this ultimate girls golf vacation. The event starts on Thursday, October 23rd and goes to Monday, October 27th. So it's that perfect amount of time. We have 3 rounds of golf, lots of prizes, lots of parties, lots of dancings. It's really all the fixings from the Desert Classic, but on the beach. You will have an absolute blast. So we have that. And then moving on to Girls Gone Golfing to Scotland in 2026. We are golfing at Muirfield, Royal Troon, Prestwick, Turnberry, Gullen, North Berwick. I feel like that's just sending me right back to when I was a child and I had to go to speech therapy. I think the R and the W at the same time, it doesn't work well. Anyway, we're going to be staying at the Marine Hotel and then transferring to Turnberry. Just like all the other Girls Gone Golfing retreats, every single thing is taken care of for you. I know you have it in your mind about what that looks like. Trust me, it is even much more. We take care of every single detail. So all you have to do is get there and then we take care of the rest. You will not be picking up your golf clubs. You will not need to worry about where we're going, what we're doing. Everything is communicated to you while we have an amazing group of women that love golf and are going on this adventure with you. It is truly something special. And talking about special, we'll wrap it up with Girls Gone Golfing to Wimbledon in 2026. You heard that right. We are going to Wimbledon because, we have to golf these courses in England, and why not go see some amazing tennis at the same time? So we're going to be going to the women's singles final in 2026, which will also be, I think, the men's doubles final is right before that too. So we'll be able to see that. And then we'll also be golfing at the Berkshire Golf Club red and blue courses, the St. George's Hill, Walton Heath Golf Club, and then finally Sunningdale Golf Course, the new and old courses. So you're going to get 6 rounds of golf. We're staying at the Richmond Hill Hotel. And just like Scotland, every single thing is taken care of for you. And trust me, this is first class. Like, we're getting amazing seats. Transportation is easy, dinners, everything. We are going to roll out the red carpet for you. So These are bucket list trips, and I would love for you to join us. We do have a couple spots available. The links are in the show notes to see all the details. All right. Now let's get into today's episode with Jennifer Weiler, Senior Vice President of First Tee.
Next up on the number one tee.
All right. Hi, Jen. Thanks for being on the show.
Tori, it's so nice to meet you. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. We are in the middle of the holiday season. How is everything going with that for you?
Good. I have wrapping to do, but all the gifts are purchased, and my daughter will be coming home from college tomorrow, so I can't wait to get my arms around her. It'll be fun.
Oh, I bet. And do you guys do a lot of traditions around the holidays, or?
Well, we're actually doing something totally non-traditional for us this year. We are leaving and renting a house in the North Carolina mountains, which we've never been to. And we're going with another family. It should be a lot of fun.
Oh my God, I love that. I love that. So having a junior in college, my kids are older also. I feel like it gets harder and harder to find them gifts, or it's just kind of like one big gift until they get their own like house or apartment where you can buy them house stuff. It's hard. It's like, what do you want? A new computer?
I know. Well, my daughter and I share a lot of notes on our iPhone, and she has a whole list of things. So there's no guessing what Grace wants for Christmas.
Okay. Okay. Wait, what do you mean? You share a lot of notes? Like what other notes do you share?
So she's applying to graduate schools right now because she's graduating a year early. So we have a note on there that's all about questions to ask graduate schools, like cost and length of time and, housing, all these different questions. And then we have a recipe note that we share. So we probably have 4 or 5 notes.
Oh my God, what a great idea.
Yeah, it's really fun because, it happens in real time. So she'll put something in the note and then I know that it's been updated. And then I do the same. It's fun.
Oh, no, that's great. I might be starting that with Lucy here. I wonder if she will engage. I'll have to do something. I'll have to start out small with her.
Well, if it's something like Christmas gifts, then she probably would engage.
Exactly. And she had her list ready for me this year, too. So that would be a great idea. So tell me about how you got into golf. I know you grew up golfing. So tell me about that.
Yeah, I was very lucky that my parents were golfers, and actually my mom's parents too, my grandparents. So grew up playing at a club outside of Philadelphia where I'm from. Learned from an amazing pro named Harry Hammond, who is still an amazing teacher, and played competitively kind of as a young girl. And then when I got to be about 14 years old, maybe 15, there was one other girl who was a little older than I that went on to college, and there were no more girls my age playing, and it was super disappointing. And of course, at that age, I didn't want to play with the boys all the time. I went to all girls Catholic school, and my mom wanted me to play on the boys Catholic school team. And I was like, heck no, I'm not doing that.
No, thanks.
Now, of course, looking back at my age today, I wish I had done it, right? But I didn't. I played field hockey and tennis at my high school and then golf in the summers. So golf was just always a part of my life. Like one of my favorite foursomes would be playing with my grandparents and my mom or my dad, just very family oriented kind of thing. We always had golf clubs in the trunk of the car wherever we went to visit my grandparents. And so it was just always something that I loved, but I never thought that it would become part of my profession. So I went to the University of Pennsylvania, graduated, and worked at Penn for 8 years. Loved it. I was going to run that place one day. And in 2000, I got a call from someone that I knew through Penn, and they had been asked to come down to Florida, where I now live, and start First Tee, which we were founded in 1997. So he called and said, hey, would you ever consider coming to work for First Tee? And, I was at this 250-year-old institution. Like, again, I was going to be there for life. And I thought, this could be a really new thing to kind of go to this startup that was all about really introducing the game to kids who don't normally have the opportunity. So I came down to Florida and I interviewed, and the CEO asked me, what interests you in First Tee? And I told him the story I just told you, Tori, about how I didn't have any girls to play with when I was a teenager, and that it was really important for me personally to open up the game for more girls to enjoy, but of course, kids from all backgrounds. And that was 23 years ago. And, here I am still loving every minute. I can't believe in some instances it feels like it's been a year that I've been at First Tee, but it's been amazing.
Yeah, and you've really grown with the company. I didn't realize it was it's still relatively young as a company, being founded in 1997.
That's right. Yes. We were founded by the sort of 5 main governing bodies of golf at the time, the PGA Tour, PGA of America, LPGA, USGA, and Augusta National, who have all been super supportive of First Tee over the years. Again, really started to initially just to open up the game for more young people. But a couple of years into our founding in 2000, we incorporated a very intentional life skills curriculum with golf. So kids are taught by trained coaches, grip, stance, and posture, typical golf instruction, but then very seamlessly integrated into an intentional life skills curriculum. So kids learn things like goal setting and how to introduce themselves, things that they can use off the golf course as well as on the course.
Okay, so I want to get into that. We're going to go through kind of your journey through First Tee and how it grew to what it is today. I am a total student today. I don't know a lot about First Tee, so I'm so glad that you're on today because I don't think a lot of my listeners know a lot either. So can you just tell me what it's all about? And just like you said, you're incorporating these life lessons into it also. I guess I also always pictured that kind of on the golf course, just kind of as a bystander, but like how intentional is this and what's the program like?
Yes, great question. So at First Tee, we believe that character is what you bring to everything you do, but you aren't born with it. So at First Tee, we build experiences that build character. So how do we do that? We have 150 chapters of First Tee across the United States and in 6 international locations. And those chapters are independent nonprofit organizations with their own board, their own staff, amazing, amazing people. We were just all together actually in Phoenix, where you are, last month, and we had 850 people for 3 days, just learning, sharing best practices. It was incredible. Such an exciting time for our organization. First Tee headquarters train all of the coaches that deliver this curriculum to kids, and it is very intentional. So every lesson has a golf intention and a life skills intention. So use goal setting as an example. We teach kids at all ages about goal setting. It gets a little bit more in depth as kids get older. But kids are taught that the goal has to be important to them. It has to be measurable. It has to be positive, time bound. Those are all really good things for all of us at any age to know about setting a goal, right? So that is taught like right on the putting green, on the driving range, out on the golf course. It's not separate in a classroom, for example. So the coaches in the trainings that we deliver and the coach training program is you can spend time over years learning to become a First Tee coach. You start out as an assistant coach, then you move to level 1, 2, 3, and then our level 4 coaches are actually going back to their communities and training new level 1 coaches. So it's a really well thought out, well planned, well executed coach training program. So we've got about 4,700 coaches across the country, around the world, delivering this like seamless integration. So the goal setting might happen like on a putting green, and you talk about, you want to make 5 out of 10 putts at 30 feet or whatever the golf intention is for the day. But then you talk about, okay, is that measurable? Yes, it is. Is it positive? It is. Is it under my control? Yes, I'm the one with the putter in my hand. There might be rain or there might be wind. There might be some things outside of my control, but the things that I can control, I'm going to. Then the coach would take the kids off to the side perhaps and say, hey, what's a goal that you're working on at school? Is it something in math class or English class? And talk about how they can use the goal setting life skill that they learned on the putting green today. And we call it a bridge to life, bring it back to what's happening off the golf course.
Wow, that's fantastic. So as I was driving in today, I'm thinking to myself, okay, how can I give back to the First Tee and really support the First Tee other than just, donate money, which helps, I'm sure, a ton. But like what you're saying is really inspirational. It really sounds fantastic, especially for children. But I'm like thinking about myself as an adult. I'm like, okay, maybe that will be good for me too.
No, and honestly, it's so true. I think, how you can help with your incredible platform is, your listeners can enroll their kids in programs if they'd like to. They could become volunteer coaches or even staff members that are 150 chapters. We're always looking for great people who love the game and who really want to impact the lives of young people. So I think those are 2 ways that your listeners, again, this huge platform that you have, can get involved with First Tee.
So Let's talk about having the parent-child process then. Like, how do you sign up your child? What ages is it? What kind of time commitment is it?
Yep. I'll start with saying that there are chapters, again, all across the country. We'll focus on the U.S. for right now. And there's some in cold weather climates, right? Cleveland, Ohio, for example. And then in warmer places like where you are. Oh my gosh, I was in Scottsdale in October and I've never been so hot in my entire life. It was like 115 degrees.
Sorry. We had a little bit of a hot spell this summer. It never stopped.
It never ended. Yeah. So, depending on the weather, a chapter might do programs indoors if they're lucky enough to have an indoor facility. And I brought up Cleveland as an example. They just opened the most incredible learning center. They developed a partnership with the Cleveland public school system and the metro parks, and they got access to an abandoned school building, which is actually like a 9-iron from an 18-hole golf course. And so they're doing programs with the golf course. They raised $3.5 million, renovated this incredible, sturdy, beautiful, big building. They've got hitting bays inside. They've got an indoor putting green. They've got a parents' lounge. They've got their staff offices there. It's an incredible facility. But I bring it up to say that, even in a cold weather place like Cleveland, which gets a lot of snow, kids are definitely not going to be outside in the winter. They can continue programs throughout the year. So parents would go to our website, firstt.org, and there's a find a location button in the top right-hand corner of our website, and put in their zip code and they can find programs that are near them. We have programs in all 50 states. We're not in more rural areas. It might be a little bit harder to find a First Tee program. But in those cases, we actually have a school program. We're in 11,000 elementary and middle schools where we've trained the physical education teacher virtually in online training to deliver core values and golf curriculum in the PE classroom. So there's still opportunities for kids to get involved with First Tee, in more rural areas of the country. But yeah, that's how parents would learn about programs in their community. And then they can go on to the chapter's site and register for a program that works for them. Programs are typically 6 to 8 weeks in length, once or twice a week. But again, we give chapters, it's sort of like, think of a franchise model like McDonald's, where you have, central McDonald's, and then you've got your stores, restaurants that are owned by individuals. You have to use the right brand and the right marks. You have to make the hamburgers the same way. You have to cook the fries the same way. But there might be some latitude depending on where they are in the country to do some other things. We're very similar. You use the brand and the marks, you use the curriculum, you get your coaches trained by us. But beyond that, you have quite a bit of latitude to create a program that makes sense for your climate, your community, how kids get to you. Lots of our chapters have great partnerships with like Boys and Girls Club, for example. And so they might get transported from the Boys and Girls Club to the golf course for programs and back. So in that case, the parent might not have interaction with First Tee. The parent's interacting with the Boys and Girls Club. It depends. There's a couple of different models. But if a parent, someone listening to this podcast is interested, definitely go to firstt.org and you can go from there.
And ages are more younger side, or does it go all the way up to like young teenagers? It's
7 to 18. So, and there are chapters if 5 and 6 year olds want to get involved. There's definitely programs for them too. But our curriculum starts with age 7, but goes all the way to 18. And in fact, we have 2 things that I would be remiss not to mention. We have a college scholarship program for kids who stay with First Tee for a long time. And they get help with internships, they get professional development workshops, they get money for college, and they get paired with an adult mentor for 4 years in college. We've got 94 scholars over the last 5 years, and they're just incredible young people. And then we just started 2 years ago an alumni program. So kids, again, who stay with First Tee for a long time, who want to continue to connect with other First Tee alumni, whether it's in their new community because they moved to somewhere to go to college or after college graduation. So we do alumni meetups around the country, and then also have an electronic platform, a website that alumni can register on so they can get assistance with internships, job placement. Some of our corporate partners post their jobs and internships there, like AWS, who's an amazing partner. And they've hired a lot of our alumni as interns and now as full-time employees too.
That's fantastic. Quite a community that children can grow up with and utilize really for a long time.
That's right. And I think too, some kids who come to First Tee at a young age, golf may not be the sport that they're going to do, but there's a lot of kids that I've talked to that I've met over the years that stay with First Tee because of the community, because of the friendships, the coach, the relationship with their coach. They don't plan to play collegiate or high school golf, although we have lots of kids who do both of those things. But more often than not, they're coming because it's a fun program where their parents feel like they're getting, having a great relationship with a highly trained coach.
Yeah. And again, even if they're not doing high school or college golf, like that's not something they're looking for. We all know, especially all of us as adults, how beneficial knowing golf and being comfortable around a golf course is as an adult.
It's amazing. Tori, I have played with so many, particularly women who are new to the game and they're so nervous. They don't know what to do when they pull into the parking lot, right? They don't know where to put their shoes on. They don't know where to drop their clothes. They don't know how to go inside and pay. Like whatever it is, it's all new to them. And it can be very intimidating. And I think that's one thing that our industry needs to do. I think it's gotten quite a bit better in the last several years, but we can continue to welcome women into the sport a little bit more with open arms and understand that it can be very intimidating. But I was so lucky, as I said, starting from a young age, I can go anywhere and play, even if I haven't been practicing. And I feel like I can hold my own and have a really good time and maybe even contribute to the team score.
Yeah. And I saw that travel as one of your, favorite things to do in your free time. So do you always bring your golf clubs, or is it kind of, if it's a golf destination, when do you decide to play golf on vacation?
Yeah. So it's funny that you asked that. My husband had back surgery recently and he's far enough past it now that he's allowed to have full swing back. So one of my goals, and actually I will, and I'm not just saying this, your podcast has inspired me to set some goals for next year, some New Year's resolutions, if you will. One of which is to play more golf with my husband. And the other is to go on a girls trip, which I've never done a golf girls trip. And so I will make sure that my goals are positive and measurable and time bound and all the things I mentioned before. One thing is definitely wanting to play more golf with my husband because we just enjoy it so much together. We've played in a lot of different places. We live in Florida, so we have an amazing number of golf courses to choose from here in our own backyard. We get to play at TPC Sawgrass on a pretty regular basis on the Dice Valley course more often than on the stadium course, but it's really fun. It's definitely something that I'm so glad that I have as an adult, that skill, that love of the game, that it's such a healthy, fun way to spend time.
Absolutely. And like you said earlier, the best family activity, even coming up to the holiday season. I'm not going to see my parents over this holiday season, unfortunately. But if I were to go to Florida and see them, or if they were to come here, like we would definitely carve out a day or two to just go golf. And it's just the 4 of us or 5 of us. And it's just so fun to break it up in a holiday, to go outside, walk 18 holes, shoot the shit,
Absolutely.
Laugh with your family.
Your mom sounds like such a hoot, by the way. I listened to that episode with your sister. Oh my gosh, that sounded like so much fun.
You said your dream foursome would be with your grandparents and your parents and your daughter, maybe. And that's the same with me too. I mean, they're priceless. So,
we're so lucky other opportunities where you get to spend 4 or 5 hours, uninterrupted. And because I think I grew up and golf was a sport for me. Like I was an athlete playing a sport. I don't typically drink on the golf course. I don't use my phone. I'm really just enjoying the company and the game. Now I enjoy the 19th hole, but out on the golf course, it's, I'm playing a sport and I love it. I love walking. Gosh, I love walking with a caddy, which I don't get to do very often. Oh my God.
No, that's the best.
The best. Yes. Only way to play golf really, but I don't get to do it very often.
Yeah, it's definitely a privilege. Before we get into your journey, one more thing I wanted to touch on is your other favorite hobby is gardening. So I need to know what you have going on in your garden, because I love a good garden too. Like there's something about getting your hands dirty and planting something and watching it grow and take care of it. So
yeah, absolutely. So we live very close to the Intercoastal. It's actually across the street here. Mm-hmm. So our yard is really sand. And so anything I plant, I have to first get, like that cow stuff, put it down. Uh-huh. And so there's like an extra step there. We don't have brown dirt, but it's fun. I have beds that mainly flowers. I switch them out. It does get cold here where we are in Northeast Florida. In fact, we get typically a freeze or 2 every winter. So I'll switch out my flowers that are there now and put in something a little bit more hardy for the winter. We've got a lot of palm trees that I am trimming all the time. We've got a lot of hedges that I trim. So it's just sort of being outside. Every Saturday, my husband and I are kind of in the yard puttering around doing stuff.
Yeah, I love that. Okay, so your journey with First Tee, again, you started when it was just an infancy of a company, and you were a young adult yourself. I mean, you must have been in your late 20s or late 30s at
Early
the time.
30s, yeah. Mm-hmm.
So tell me what it was like at the beginning and what your different positions were in charge of and how it is to really watch this company grow to what it is today.
Yeah, no, it's great. It's been an amazing journey. So I started out as the Northeast Regional Director. I was living in Philadelphia, where I'm from, and stayed there for the first 7 years that I was with First Tee. And I managed our chapters from Montreal down to Washington, D.C., kind of along the Eastern Seaboard, and loved that job. I felt like I was, in contact with our chapters all the time, helping them, inspiring them to do, great work in their communities. And then I moved down to Florida in that 8th year and started overseeing, kind of having more responsibility, eventually taking over our fundraising efforts, helped run a $106 million campaign in 2010 to 2012, which was a lot of fun. I love fundraising for First Tee because we have such a great mission. We're doing such great work, and our donors are the best donors on the planet. They're amazing people, just so philanthropic, and they're really doing it. We don't have things to put their names on. They're just giving from their heart because they believe in what we're doing.
Tell me in depth, though, what that part was all about, though, and because to me, when I hear fundraising, that gives me a little bit of anxiety. Just asking for money, Yes. So tell me what the job was about, and yeah.
So at First Tee headquarters, again, our chapters are independent 501c3 organizations. So they're raising, right now about $120 million a year aggregately. And then First Tee headquarters, we raise money to run our headquarters operation. And then also some of the money that we raise goes back out in the form of grants to our chapters. So a lot of our donors, we call them trustees, are giving, $1 million or more over time, not in a single check typically, but over 3, 4, 5 years. So very wealthy individuals, wonderfully generous corporations. And it's funny, when you develop a relationship with a prospective donor, it's very rare, like you said, ask for money. It's very rare that you have to ask. It's more like a conversation that develops over months of time. And, I really love what you're doing. You've shown me what, I've met some of the kids. I see what you're doing. How can I help? That's really and Americans are so generous. Billions of dollars are given to charity every year by Americans. And a lot of that goes to, churches and synagogues and to institutions of higher education. But a lot of it goes to organizations that impact young people like First Tee. So we have the best donors. Some of our donors I've known for 20 plus years. It's just, I feel like they're part of my family in some way. It's a very joyful thing, fundraising in that way, as opposed to being scary.
Yeah. So jumping from being in charge of 30 chapters, again, was that in the Northeast sector then?
That's right.
To going down to Florida and, taking more responsibility and being in charge of fundraising. How was that transition?
It was great because I had worked at First Tee already for 7 years. At that point, I knew everyone in the business. And our headquarters is only about 55 people. It's not a huge organization. So we work hard, but we also have a lot of fun together. It's a really great organization to work for. So coming to Florida was fun. My daughter at the time was 4 years old, I think. So she was just going into like pre-K. And so she really has grown up as a Floridian for sure. And the transition was pretty seamless, I would say. And so then after I finished the sort of fundraising part of my responsibilities in 2019, I started the role that I have now, which is overseeing a whole chapter network. We use Salesforce as a CRM, so our Salesforce platform, all data and technology, our coach training and curriculum, kind of all of our forward-facing programs, and just have an incredible team that I get to work with every day to, as I said earlier, inspire our chapters to do really great things in their communities.
So you are directly behind the curriculum of First Tee that you develop each year or improve each year?
I have colleagues that are like in it every day, and they're amazing. So I get the honor and privilege of managing that group, but I'm not in it every day. Our curriculum is so well done. And in fact, I'm super excited. In next year, 2025, University of Virginia is going to do research on our curriculum. So they'll probably work with about 12 or so chapters and really spend quite a bit of time researching kids in the First T program and then a control group of kids that aren't in First T, and kind of comparing the character development, life skills development, any follow-on benefits like how well they're doing in school as opposed to kids not in First T. So very excited to work with that research group at UVA next year to kind of measure the efficacy of our programs.
What about looking forward? What does 2025 have in store for First T? What are the company's goals as a whole?
Yeah. So that research project is really big for us. That will take several months before we get the results back from UVA, but excited to go through the process and then be able to tell our story of impact to our donors and prospective donors and to our families. Another thing that's really important from a national or international perspective is inspiring our chapters to reach more and more young people from socioeconomically disadvantaged backgrounds. So we started measuring socioeconomic status of our participants 2 years ago, and about a quarter of our participants nationwide come from the most disadvantaged and at-risk zip codes in the country. And that's important because kids in those zip codes don't typically have access to many programs, if any at all. And so if First T can be part of what they experience outside of school, that's very important to us. So we've identified for each chapter, individual chapter, like First T Phoenix, how many of their kids come from those lower socioeconomic parts of the community. And then working with the leadership, the board chair and the CEO of the chapter to say, maybe set some goals around trying to reach into this zip code where you don't have any kids at First T Phoenix today. Like, is there a way to partner with a school there, or partner with a Boys and Girls Club, or figure out a way to get kids from that community to your programs? So that's a big goal for us, is really inspiring our chapters to reach more and more young people from, those really poor communities that don't have access to many programs at all.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And are those kids able to come into a program like they don't need any equipment? Everything is provided for them?
That's exactly right. Kids can come. They don't have to have golf apparel. They don't have to have golf equipment. And in fact, our chapters will provide, scholarships or golferships. Some of our chapters call them, for kids who can't afford to pay the registration fee. So there really is zero barrier to entry for kids from any, other than perhaps transportation. That's the one thing that has been, in my 23 years at First T, it's a constant battle, is how to get, because, golf courses don't typically exist in those more disadvantaged parts of our communities. And so how do we safely and efficiently get kids from over here to the golf course over here? Our chapters are doing a great job of, some of them have vans and can transport kids themselves. Others get grants, transportation grants from various donors where they can pay buses or vans to bring kids. And like I said earlier, they partner with other youth organizations that have vans and can bring kids, but transportation is definitely difficult. And it's not germane just to First T, right? It's any youth organization that's trying to reach into those parts of the communities. It's probably the biggest barrier. But if they can get to First T, they don't have to have equipment. They don't have to have apparel. They don't have to pay a registration fee. We just will welcome all kids for sure.
Yeah, that's fantastic. So looking back at the 20 plus years you've been there, can you think of a major hurdle the company had to overcome, looking through that was quite extraordinary, or something that they had to struggle with and get through?
We started some chapters in the early days that were in smaller communities that they weren't able to sustain the fundraising needed to have a full-fledged chapter in that community. So kind of at the beginning, we were sort of like, hey, you'd like to have a chapter in your community? Sure, let's develop a board, develop a plan. But then the fundraising sustainability wasn't there. And so some of our chapters in the early days closed, which was unfortunate. Or in some cases, in very positive cases, they merged if they were in close proximity to one another. And that has been a positive thing. So I think we've gotten a little smarter over the years about when someone in a community reaches out and says, hey, I'd like to start a chapter. Now we have that school program I told you about earlier. We can say, we don't think your community is big enough for a full-fledged chapter, But there are these other programs where we can still meet kids where they are in schools or in after school locations. So I think just getting beyond that initial phase of like, let's develop chapters, we kind of slowed things down and said, let's be much more measured about it and intentional about where we want to be and which communities we want to be in.
Well, I gotta say, I'm really inspired. I'm inspired in a way, like, again, my kids are older, but if they were on the younger side, I would be getting them involved as soon as possible. I'm even thinking my 15-year-old who's kind of, in a weird spot in his after school activities, it might do him a lot of good. And then I'm inspired with how this company has grown and what it can do and how it can help. And so I really appreciate you being on today, Jen.
Well, thank you. And I'd be happy to introduce you to Erin McDonough, who runs our chapter in Phoenix, if you'd like to get your son involved. I'm sure we have programs near you. And yeah, your podcast, as I said earlier, has been super inspiring to me. I'm really enjoying catching up on episodes and setting some goals, some New Year's resolutions for 2025 for myself.
Yeah. I'll tell you, once you go on that girls trip, it's a different vibe. You'll love it. You'll have a great time. I know it will be your first one in 2025, but once you pick one and you go, it's really fun.
Well, your event sounds amazing.
Yeah, we have a great time. I say this all the time. We always have people that ask, like, can we bring our husbands? Can we bring our significant other? Can we do that? Like, do it as a couples trip? And I'm like, no, trust me. Having it all women, it's an incredibly fun, inspiring, like, just great time on the golf course. So
yeah, I don't know why I haven't done it before, but I've already talked to one of my really close girlfriends. She lives in Seattle, but about how, who we could invite, where we should go. Yeah,
absolutely. The options are endless. So, well, Jen, thank you for being on. And, again, I appreciate it. For everyone that is interested in getting in touch with First Tee in whatever direction you want to do, all the information will be in the show notes. I'm very positive. If you're listening to this podcast, you're feeling inspired like I am. So thanks again, Jen, thanks for coming on and teaching us what First Tee is about from all different angles.
Thank you so much for your time.